Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm the Gnarly Gnome. This is the Weekly Pint. It's not a show, so I'm not going to apologize that it's a half hour late and that we had a little false start there. That was computer's fault. I need to learn my lesson in that I should restart the computer right before I go live every time just to make sure everything is everything's happy, because sometimes it just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. If anybody is new to the show that is not a show, the point is for all of us just to hang out, have a drink together, talk about whatever we want to talk about. So with that being said, as you guys hopefully see on the chat wherever you are, the point is to talk about what you're drinking and then talk about whatever the topic is that we decide to talk about at any given moment. Marco says that the Reds might win this one. I'm not watching the game currently. Hang on, let me pull it up. That's probably a bad idea. It's probably a very bad idea. Oh, it's not even ready on the iPad. So there's a lot to talk about this week, as hopefully all of you guys know, but in the meantime, feel free to chime in with what you're drinking. Let me see. We have I missed some of the first comments because of the false start with the the chaos. Hang on, I'm trying to find the game here on the iPad. All right, so Josh is drinking a Flying Knife All Sunshine. What style is that? I don't know. Julia is drinking, she's finishing up an Urban Artifact Spicy Key Lime Fruit Tart. I did not buy any of that one. Joseph Thomas is, let's see, drinking a Limerick Dry Irish Stout by Westside. Marco says, is anything happening, or are we still waiting to start? I don't know if that's an old comment or if he is not on the current stream. West 6th. West 6th. Oh, sorry. Not West Side. West 6th. Sorry, I'm doing way too many things all at the same time here. I'm going to forget the Reds game. Jeff is drinking a homemade margarita. Josh is now... Oh, the style is a hazy double dry hopped IPA. From Lexington. Yes, West 6th. We know West 6th. It was a misread in my mind because I actually stopped at West Side today and drank 2 beers, which were both amazing. I got a hold of their dark Mexican lager, the Cerveza Negra, which was amazing. And then the Amarillo Pale Ale, which was probably one of the best pale ales that I think I've ever had in my life. And maybe it was just how things were hitting for me today, but it was amazing. You get this really great minerality to the water, but then those hops come in, just hops ablazing, and it was amazing. So yeah, that's why Westside was on my mind. I'm gonna crack open a beer though. This is one that we drank on this week's Brewcast. So shout out to Michael from Medina for sending me home with this. This is Summertide with Lime from Brink. You guys, I'm sure, have heard of Brink Brewing here in town. This is their cream ale with little kick of lime, and I really enjoy it. There's a lot of different light kind of easy drinking beers with lime this time of year. And sometimes they do it very poorly. Not naming names. Justin says Brink sucks. I'll pass that on. This one, the lime, actually, there's like a lime peel thing that's going on. So there's like a neat little kind of bitter lime thing that kind of cuts through the cream ale really, really, really nicely. This is a killer beer for a style that I don't know how much I crapped on it on this week's Brewcast, but I hate. I shouldn't say I hate. I'm really kind of over this idea that when Cinco de Mayo hits, your Cinco de Mayo beer has to be your light lager with lime. Like we've got enough of them at this point. You gotta get past that and get to something else that kind of is inspired from that. And I think the example we used on the show was Wooden Cask, because the Batilla de Puebla, their goza with tequila barrel, and it hits perfect, and it's just different enough that it still scratches that itch in the same way that a beer like this does, but it definitely has its own personality. So Justin says the pour sucked too. The pour's not as bad as it looks on the camera. It was actually okay. We could talk about that a little bit. I am a very heavy pourer, so I tend to leave a lot more head on my beers than probably a lot of people do, because I don't like the carbonation as much. I like a beer that I like to get some of that carbonation out. It lets the aromatics get out, and then when you drink it, it doesn't sit the same way as a beer that you give good head on it. Feel free to make the joke, anybody. So, yeah, I pour heartily, we'll say, typically. But the pour did not suck. It was fine. This beer is great. And, yeah, so like even the way it smells, like it's definitely lime. But it smells like real lime. God, it's a great beer. Delicious. If you want to hear more about it, listen to this week's Brewcast. Marco says, a pour with vigor. Yes. I mean, that's part of the reason that, if we want to get a little bit nerdy for just a second, that a slow pour Pilsner, the reason that is so fantastic is that you're getting so much of that carbonation out of the beer before it gets into your stomach. It just goes down so much easier then. Justin says, glad COVID didn't take your smell. Yeah, I'm glad that I can smell things. It never really. So I had COVID, twice officially, and sorry, there's a bead in my pocket, a little pink bead, a little tiny pink bead. I had COVID officially twice, and both times I never really lost my sense of taste and smell. But the second time, I think it was the second time, it all blends together. I definitely had a muted sense of taste and smell, and it threw me off, and I didn't like it. And I definitely feel for people that that lose it completely. That would be it'll be tough as a beer fan. Anyway, we didn't talk about the ways you can talk about this. Some of you guys are logged into both Facebook and YouTube. We'll pull the chat up on the screen here so you can all take part that way. Chat's goofy lately. Okay. Let's see. Justin says it would suck as a brewer. Yeah, it would suck as a drinker. Forget as a brewer, like as the person that drinks beer, it would just you would lose all of that enjoyment of beer and drinks. Like, so much of that comes from smelling and tasting. All of it comes from smelling and tasting. Sean says, wait, are we doing Margarita Mondays? Because I could definitely go for that. No, we did margaritas last week on Cinco de Mayo. If you guys missed that live stream, made margaritas and also drank some Southern Comfort in the middle of it for some reason. It sounded like a good idea. One of the few things that one of the few spirits that I really still just despise. Justin says, that's what brewers do as far as drinking. There are brewers that do not drink. That does exist. I don't know how you can judge what you made and decide if you made it right. But Marco says, I lost my taste for a Schwarzbier. Well, that sounds like a extremely personal problem, and I don't know how that can happen. I didn't pull any labels this week. We'll pull labels next week. Like I said, I'm doing it kind of every other week now, so we don't have that to go into on this episode of the show that is not a show. But we do have plenty of topics that I want to talk about. Obviously, you guys have seen, or I shouldn't say obviously, hopefully you've seen that Third Eye finally announced their plans for Hamilton. They took over an old Pepsi plant, or are taking over an old Pepsi plant and putting in a huge production facility, tap room, barrel aging facility, new 30-barrel brew house. Just a lot of stuff going on with them. $3.1 million, is that right? If I remember correctly, the number that is being tagged with this project. So that's big news. And then on a different side of things, you have the Cincinnati Beverage Company, SinBev, was purchased by a buyer, which is very interesting. Julia says, I love how the news reports are like, they haven't said exactly where the location will be. All you have to do is Google Pepsi Hamilton, and there she be. I haven't seen that the news reports haven't said exactly where the location will be. Like, I can drive you by it. I haven't actually read many of the news reports about it. Typically, I get a little annoyed. Margo says, the Queen of Screens. I don't know what that means. I guess that's Julia somehow is the Queen of Screens. So what do you guys want to talk about first? You want to talk about Third Eye? You want to talk about Moreline / SinBev? Because I have a lot to say about both of these. A lot. Margo says yes. I assume that means yes, he was talking about Julia. This cord is driving me insane. I don't know if you always see me fidgeting with it, but I'm trying to stuff it in my pocket. There we go. One or two I read said the exact location hadn't been disclosed, but still said it was in a Pepsi plant. That's funny. So Julia says, let's talk SinBev first. Okay. And Joe says that someone in one of the beer Facebook groups said that Amazon took over the old Moreline tap room. I saw that. I don't know that that's true. Marco says start with Moreline, then Third Eye. Okay, so we'll talk about Moreline first, or SinBev. Municipal Brew Works may be fortunate to get into Spooky Nook first, says Jeff. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about kind of Hamilton and Third Eye and Municipal and all of that. As far as Moreline, so the old brewery in OTR. I don't know what is happening with the old taproom right now. I should have probably looked that up to see if any kind of ownership changed on the building itself, but I haven't recently, and I struggle trying to do these things while I'm talking. Let's see, especially when my keyboard's not working. Um, oh Lord, yeah. All right, I'm not gonna try to fight it right now. Um, I don't know, but if there was ownership change, which I doubt that there was right now, um, you know, uh, Julia says, "Where's David?" They should be. I think he identifies as a he. Should be doing this work. It should, but yeah, David's not here this week, as usual. He's a very bad. He's not really a producer, but we'll call him a producer just for shits and giggles. So more line, as in the Cincinnati beverage company. Marco says, are they the same group that bought the old brewery with the tunnel tours? Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack here. I hope you guys all kind of read the article that I put together with kind of everything that I know, sort of. There is a group, a company, an LLC that bought a couple different old brewery buildings, two specific old brewery buildings downtown. You have the Jackson Brewery, it's up on the hill. It was the brewery that originally Urban Artifact was wanting to go into, but they couldn't get the cost to work out to renovate the building and turn it into a brewery and still have money left over to operate a brewery, which is how they ended up at Northside. That building back in 2018 caught on fire, and is from what I understand, still extremely rough shape. This LLC bought that building, along with the Cliffside building, which is still on the hill but down on McMicken, so down kind of lower into OTR. That building, part of it has been renovated. There's been plans for a really long time to put a bunch of condos and things like that in it. I don't know how much of that ever actually got done. And then attached to that is the Felsenbrow space, which I guess is probably all technically part of the same space. So these big building. And then they've also bought lots of other lots, vacant lots, and some actual like renovated houses and stuff. So like actual like places that people can live. It's a very strange kind of group of buildings. Along with those, within the last year and a half, they have bought buildings that are very clearly being used by the parent company that owns this LLC, which is Sugar Creek, which is a food manufacturer. I feel like I'm gonna when I talk about this, I feel like I'm just making people mad. When I first wrote the article, I had not heard back from anybody from this company at all. Since then, I have received an email. I should say that they have contacted me and said that they are going to be willing to talk. They're just not quite ready yet. So I feel like I'm making them mad by talking about this, but nobody listens to this show anyway, so we can talk freely, right? it's only the internet. Anyways, so Sugar Creek is a food manufacturer. They produce food not under their name. They make food products for other companies. They don't really talk about who those companies are. That's part of what they do, is that they kind of they white label food products, I guess. A lot of, like, from my understanding, a lot of ready kind of almost pre-cooked meals that you can just throw in a microwave or something, I guess. Marco says, don't they have a place in Blue Ash? I know they have a place kind of over Sharonville, somewhere like that. I know they have one on Mulhauser, kind of almost Westchester. I don't know if that's considered Westchester there. Kind of by 747. Contract brew, but for food. Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of exactly the thing. It's a very, very big company. So it's still family owned. It's not. I mean, it is a big corporation, but um, it's family owned. It's been around since the mid '60s. It's only had, from what I understand, two people that have run the company. So there was the dad, and then his son, I think, bought the company back in the 80s or the 90s, maybe, something like that. It is a huge, huge, huge company at this point. They have facilities all over the United States, but a big presence here in Cincinnati because they started up in Washington Courthouse. Started just making bacon, I believe. And then, from what I understand, they were one of the first places that were producing kind of pre-cooked bacon that you could then just use on stuff. I don't know a lot about the company other than that, and it's a very big company, and there's definitely some power behind it. Some, for lack of a better way to put it, there's some money behind the company, which is exactly what these brands need right now, is a push, a big push, and somebody that's willing to support them financially. And they can. And that's not to say that they will. I don't know the people at all. I've never talked to them, but they can, and I hope that they will. It all seems to be setting up for something that will be interesting. Going back to the real estate stuff, to kind of squash some of those rumors right off the bat, I don't anticipate that they're buying up historic brewing buildings to put together some kind of Moorline brewery. I anticipate that those will still be used for some other kind of investment. Not that they won't maybe use some of those names that they are purchasing, but a hotel maybe at some point with enough investment behind it. Office space, condos, maybe retail at some point. Who knows? But I don't think you'll see a big Moorline brewery in the old Jackson brewery. I don't anticipate. Maybe I could be wrong, but it is interesting. It's actually very interesting to watch and to kind of try to understand where they're going with it, because it is a company that is very good at not needing the spotlight on them. It is a company that can let something else kind of shine on its own. Marco wants to know if this non-show is sponsored by Manscaped. No, it is not. It is not sponsored, but stay tuned. We'll see. We'll see if anything ever is. So that's pretty much all I know about the Moorline purchase. If anybody has any thoughts or questions or opinions about it, feel free to chime in, and we can comment on it, and we can I will answer the best that I can of my thoughts about what this means or where it goes. In my post, I hope that I made it clear how much that I how deeply I love these brands that are associated with Cincinnati Beverage Company Corporation thing, Cinbev. I hate that name so much. How I feel about it, because Cincinnati beer is about a lot of things that run a lot deeper than what's happening right now, and there aren't a lot of brands that are able. I say brands loosely. There aren't a lot of breweries that are able to to capture that in the way that Moreline can. So Marco says, "I'm glad the brand has a new owner. I hope we get beer soon." Yeah, I mean that's the interesting part about all of this is that there for the last few weeks people have been complaining about not being able to get Hootie or Little Kings or things like that. I think you guys understand why now is that there's this transition happening. There will be more coming, I'm sure. Julia says, "I don't want to be quick to jump to any opinions. I just hope they do justice to the brands and don't try to modernize them," if that makes sense. I agree. Even if they wanted to open up a big beer hall, could they? With the Lager House at the Banks, they are owned by two separate entities now. Right. They've always been owned by two separate entities. It's been two separate companies the whole time. And the Lager House is still operating the same way that it always has. I would argue maybe even a little bit better right now than it has in the past. I don't know how much I can talk about all of that, but there has been a kind of a refocusing there over the last short history. There is a huge focus there on beer again. At one time, the operators of the restaurant there were pushing very hard on the food side of things, and I think the beer may have kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. It's one of the best brew pubs that you can find. It is it's not a coincidence that they do win awards for being a great brew pub. I think that I don't know how to answer that question. If they wanted to open up a big beer hall, could they? I mean, it's already there. I don't anticipate that the Lager House will ever not serve Moreline beer in some capacity. I mean, it could. There's nothing to stop the Lager House from just spinning their beer off into its own brand, as far as I know, and turning it into its own thing. But I don't know why you would. Hopefully, if anything, this new ownership group kind of makes the Lager House and we'll call it Sinbev, the Sinbev side of things work a little bit more cohesively together is my hope, and that's coming from me, and just my opinions on it. So going back to it, Julia says she doesn't want them to modernize them, if that makes sense, and I agree with that. I think, I mean, to some extent, you need to do something with the beers. You can't try to replicate what they were brewing with some of these brands if you want to brew the beer. But speaking of some of the things that we do know at this point, Little Kings, don't mess with Little Kings, make Little Kings. I think stuff like Hootie, just don't overthink it. Make a light lager that is inexpensive or inexpensive-ish. But some of those other brands I think are a little more interesting. The burgers and things like that. Red Top. There's so many brands under that umbrella. I think at one time, and I don't know how accurate this is or if it still is this way, but I think I heard something like 60 something brands are encompassed by that company, and I could be wrong on that number, but there's a lot of brands there that that do kind of mean something to this this history of beer in Cincinnati that you could do something with, or somebody could do something with. I would be curious if they're going to hold on to all of them, or if they're going to part with some of them. If they do part with some of them, do they let them go to local breweries that want to do something? I know that there are local breweries that would love some of those brands. It would be interesting, but then does that make competition for the other brands? You know, if you sell Burger or Red Top or whatever it is that then automatically a competing brand for Hootie, because it kind of fits that same category? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I guess you probably don't let go of any of them, in my opinion. But then do you do something with all of them, or do you do something with just those most valuable ones within there, which seems to be kind of what the track record has been for it all. I don't know. We'll know more in the coming weeks, I guess. I don't know. I hope to talk to the new owners. Let's say that. They have said that they will be willing to talk, but I think that was before they saw that I already wrote a post about it. What are you going to do? I couldn't not talk about it. And I'll never, I shouldn't say never, because if anybody that is listening right now works for a brewery, if there's something you don't want me to talk about, all you have to do is shoot me a message and say, hey, this is happening. Please don't talk about it until we're ready to talk about it. Now, with that being said, if you do that, if you reach out to me and you say, hey, don't talk about this until we're ready to talk about it, because you are getting ready to talk to somebody else about it, again, I'm still okay with it, and I'll still listen to you. But if you do that enough times, I get annoyed, and I'll probably talk about it before you have a chance to reach out to me the next time. if that makes any sense. But if you're respectful to me and what I do, and you reach out to me and you say, hey, we've got this going on, we'd really appreciate it if you don't talk about it right now. I'm not gonna go back on that unless you're a jerk. Let's put it that way. Sean says, my take is that money doesn't solve all the issues. They need to invest in someone that is dedicated to bringing to life what these brands once were and take it seriously. Oh, hang on. Oh, goodness. You'd have to bring someone in that's familiar with the scene and is excited about driving it forward. Are you looking for a job? I agree with everything that you said. You really do have to bring somebody that's familiar with what these brands are and what they mean to the city. That being said, I'm not looking for a job. I finally got rid of my job, and I'm extremely happy about that. So no, I'm not looking for a job. I will not be working for Sinbev or whatever the company is called or will be called. Not at all. That is not on my radar. However, if they want you to take pictures for them, give me a call. That's what I do, and I'm really good at it. And I can take pictures of all your beers in very beautiful, beautiful scenes. So I don't know there's much else that I have to add, unless anybody has any specific thoughts that we're looking for comment on. But like I said, I don't know a ton, and I will have more to say about it once I get a chance to talk to them. Oh, God, I'm sorry. I'm so tired. My kids are brutal. That's actually why the show was a little bit late today, is because of my kids, because they are crazy. Our dinner routine turned into some kind of spontaneous Disney dance party thing with both of my kids in their underwear dancing around the house, and it was entertaining, but it was chaos, and took way longer, made dinner take way longer than it should have. So that's why the show was late, honestly. And then you still have to get the boy to bed, and He doesn't like to go to bed. Oh, great. My wife says they're both wide awake still. I have that to look forward to. Oh. My kids are great, but they're also not. So I still have that to look forward to. I still have to get at least the little one to bed when I get done with this. So let's on that note, let's go ahead and let's jump into to Third Eye. Third Eye is opening a production facility. So, and that's the biggest part of this, is that they're maxed out on their space in their current location. They cannot fit anything else in there, and they're at full production. They have a canning line crammed into that brewery in a space that really was not not designed for that. There's a lot smushed into a space, and they needed some room to grow. So they've been looking for some kind of way to grow for a while, and I first heard rumblings about a production facility happening. I think I started hearing about it early this year, and somebody said something about an old Pepsi plant. And in my head, I thought, well, there is no way that's true. That's way too big. And I started looking around and trying to find old Pepsi buildings, and Hamilton definitely popped up front and center for me, but it still seemed too big. It's not, evidently. I mean, they're not taking over the whole building right away, but they're taking over a big chunk of it. It still leaves other space in there that they can expand into, but it's going to be big. They are currently brewing on a 15-barrel system. This new space will have a 30-barrel system in it, so they are going to it'll triple their brewing capacity, I guess. Not fermentation capacity, but brewing capacity. And I don't know exactly how many tanks they're going to stuff in there off on the get-go, but it's I think they said I can't remember right off the bat what the is it 4,000 barrels worth of fermentation capacity? That I don't know. That's a lot. That would be a year. That would triple what they're doing right now. That might be right. I don't know. It's a lot. It's gonna expand what they're doing by leaps and bounds. As of right now, from what I understand, they don't know if they're going to leave the canning line where it is or move it into Hamilton. I assume it's going to go to Hamilton. That makes the most sense to me. Hamilton will also have a barrel aging facility downstairs in the basement. It'll have a big tap room, a big tap room, so the tap room will be bigger than what it is in Sharonville there. Julia says, I'm guessing a chunk of that space will be used for barrels as well if they want to up their barrel age program. The entire, well, not the entire, but the basement space is where all the barrels go. The upstairs, the tap room, is still all tap room. Like it is still a ton of space. Big giant patio outside, kind of similar to the kind of the outside space that you're used to with Third Eye. Food. So the food program will feel exactly the same as it does in Sharonville. So good food, but not stupid expensive food. I anticipate they will still have their Bloody Marys on Sundays, because they've become kind of known for really awesome Bloody Marys on Sundays. You know, Third Eye is ready to grow. That's absolutely for certain. It is exciting and a little bit terrifying to see it happening coming out of COVID, I guess. And I lean into the exciting, but we haven't really seen anybody go this big since all of that happened. So they are definitely kind of putting it out there, saying we believe in what we've got going on, and we believe in our customers, and we believe in our beer, and we're ready. So I think a lot of people are watching it and are curious about it. Let's see. Caroline is certainly in the running for Mom of the Year. At least we spent our Mother's Day at urgent care. Oh, no. I hate to hear that. Hope the kids are okay. Mother's Day sometimes doesn't, Mother's Day or Father's Day, doesn't always end up the way we as parents want it to. No night or day or minute ever kind of ends the way you want it to as a parent, but that's the way it works. Not COVID or flu. Well, that's good to hear, but it doesn't make it any easier, and I understand that. It gives you a little bit of ease of mind, I guess, but it doesn't make it easier. Julie says, I saw one of the wee ones was sick. Hope it's getting better. Caroline certainly deserves a Mother of the Year. Sad as well. All moms deserve that. If you are, not even just moms, I'm going to say that if you are a mom, a stepmom, an aunt, a sister, any kind of woman that serves as some kind of caregiver or role model or anything for a kid, you deserve Mom of the Year. It's a very thankless job sometimes, as my wife can certainly attest to tonight, where I'm sitting down here in the basement drinking a beer, talking to my friends, and she's upstairs probably with a 2-year-old on top of her head, probably smacking her right now, yelling something about Paw Patrol, and then a 5-year-old probably stretched out across the bed, pushing them off, watching something on her phone, probably YouTube, watching somebody play some kind of a video game. That's my guess. That's my guess of what's happening up there. So, on that note, we will. Here we go. We have a call coming in. Let's see who this is. Hello, you're on the Weekly Pint. Who is this?
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
Long-time caller, first-time listener. This is Marco.
What's up, Dangles?
So what's up? Yeah, thank you, buddy. Hey, so I'm driving, so I'm being responsible, and I'm not texting because, I went and had my truth and grabbed my to-go food. But
That's
anyway,
right.
This Pepsi plant that you speak of, where, like, in the Dora district, is it in the Dora district for Hamilton? I mean, you live there now, so I mean, how familiar are you with this place?
I'm fairly familiar with where it is. I'm not super familiar because it is not in the Dora district right now. It is, yeah, it's actually pretty far out of it. It is in a part of Hamilton that can use a space like this because there's not a lot of reason for people to go there and hang out there. There's McDonald's and a couple fast food restaurants.
Nobody hangs out there.
Yeah, there's nobody hanging out at this part of Hamilton. It's kind of in between Hamilton and Fairfield on Route 4. So I mean, it's easy to get to. It is.
So it's on Route 4.
It's on Route 4, yeah. But
nice.
Route 4 in Hamilton. So like if you're coming from anywhere else in Cincinnati, you're going
never gonna do that.
Yeah, you're going just as far as you would to get to Municipal or any other place in Hamilton.
They are, because I am not.
It's there is a lot to do
Unless
in Hamilton.
You have, like, I know. I mean, you've told us. You told us about that, and
You're and
maybe one day.
guess what? You're gonna hear more about it, is my guess.
I'm sure I will. And yeah, maybe someday somebody will chauffeur me through all of that.
Somebody's got to get
For
Marco to Hamilton because he's afraid to venture out of his tiny little bubble that he's comfortable with.
I have a lot of fears, but anyway. But yeah, outside of my bubble, I have issues. But anyways, okay, cool. 30 barrel system. Branching out for Third Eye, that's awesome. But I think there might be something to it. Maybe you could, get into this like a dog with a bone or something. But outside of OTR, I mean, you're looking at places like Saunders that are growing at a huge rate, adding things. You got Third Eye that's got this other production facility. Outside of downtown, there's some growth. Now it's not everybody. I mean, you got 60 lots going into Newport. It's not everybody that's outside of downtown growing, but there's growth, and there's a big bet, like a big doubling down from some of these places where they feel like they have proven themselves and are growing. So
well, it also goes.
That's great. Kudos to them.
It also goes back to that conversation that we've had on the show a lot of times with a lot of different breweries coming out of, or even when they were in the middle of COVID, of how we expected chaos. We expected places to be fighting to survive through all of this, and sometimes the reverse happened. Like there were places that were almost thriving through COVID, and I think that a lot of those places that were doing so well, and I still hate to say it that way, in COVID were some of those suburb breweries. The places that had these loyal people who live fairly close by that weren't going to go downtown for anything for the last couple of years, that still needed that place that was local, that would deliver beer to them, or that was easy just to run in and out and grab their beer. It almost kind of makes sense to me. Not that it's a good thing, but it does kind of make sense to me that the suburban breweries would be the ones right now that are ready to kind of reinvest in themselves, whereas some of those downtown breweries might be not super comfortable.
Yeah, I totally get that, and I'm going to go ahead and switch back to an earlier conversation. What can the group, what is it called, Sugar Creek or Sugar Hill or whatever it is, are there any lessons to be learned as far as legacy brands from Wiedemann being a legacy brand, but reimagined, reinvigorated with the way that they have come on? I mean, are there any lessons there? Do you think they could take anything away? And those who say the legacy brands from Christian Moorline don't need to change, I don't know if that's the case. Little Kings, cool, awesome, but I don't know if whatever they were pumping out before couldn't do with a little bit of tweaking in the future. So, I mean, what are your opinions on that?
That's a big question. I think that if you are taking a beer and trying to push that out into the marketplace, it's very different than taking a brand and then building a brewery around that brand. So Moorline has a brewery. It has the Lager House, where they have a bunch of different beers that are brewed under the Moorline banner. And I think that you need to constantly be reimagining what that is, and making sure you're putting out new beers that your customers want and all of that. That's the Moreline brand, and they do that. I think they do it really well. And then you have something like Little Kings that, in my opinion, should exist as a beer. It should be Little Kings. It should be a cream ale that's produced in tiny green glass bottles. Should be consistent. It should be a great cream ale, but I don't think you need a blood orange cream ale, and I don't think you need a agave lime cream. I don't think that should exist, because I don't think you need to tweak it. I don't think you need to change it. You just need to make sure it's really good, because it's just a beer.
Disagree.
So I think that something like Little Kings or something like Burger or whatever the specific beer brand, the one beer brand that exists, I think it's very different than what Wiedemann did with their brand. I think it's very different than what the Moreline brand is, because it's a single thing versus a portfolio, I guess. Wiedemann took a name and built a portfolio around a name, and they did a really good job with it, in my opinion. And same with Moreline. I think Moreline is doing a really great job down at the Lager House, using that brand to kind of tie the past and the present together. And I know that may be a controversial opinion, but I think they're doing incredible with it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm home, and I will hang up and listen offline.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks for calling in, buddy.
You got it, bud.
Hey, don't fall in the ditch when you're getting out of your car. He hung up before he heard. He'll hear it in a minute, I'm sure. That is a joke for anybody who did not listen to this week's episode of Matt Damaris's show, the Bruce Travelers Outcast podcast, from West Virginia. Although I don't know how much we talked about him falling in a ditch. I don't know how much we talked about anything. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm excited to. I don't know. If anybody has any quick thoughts before I wrap this episode of the show that is not a show up, I would be curious to hear what people think about the differences between what Moreline is today, specifically the Moreline Lager House, and what they're doing with the brand there. Wiedemann, what they've done with that brand versus something like Little Kings, or I guess that's probably the only real example that I can call to, because we haven't seen Burger or much of Burger in recent years, or any of those other brands. So those are probably the best ones that I can think of. But you see, even like outside of Cincinnati, Narragansett, or like Hams is still around. Even kind of Rolling Rock, I would classify that in there. PBR. Sean says distribution is the main difference, right? I mean, maybe. I mean, they're all distributed to some degree. Julia says, I wonder if they'll let the Flying Pig still have the Hootie 14K, 7K races. I don't think anybody's letting anybody have anything. I think that the opportunity is there to pay to have your name associated with it is my guess. That's, anybody's allowed to pay for it. Jeff says Moreline is a tradition and should. And should what? should. I love like this, and I know that Cincinnati's not special in that we have beer history. I know there are other cities that have history to them, but I feel. Julia says, hence the Little King Mile turning into the 50 West Mile. Yeah. Joe says that 50 West took over the beer series. I think they did too. But again, it's whoever wants to pay for it. and it does fit in with the 50 West brand, and then that's fine. You know, so going back to what I was saying, it's not that Cincinnati is special in the fact that we have beer history, but the history that we have is a little bit different than other cities. You'll never find a city that has the amount of oh wow, Siri thought I was talking to her. I'm not talking to you, Siri. That's a first. Um, I, you'll never find a beer city. City. I said city, not Siri. Um, you'll never find one that has the concentration of historic loggering tunnels underground the way Cincinnati does. You'll never find a city that has, or I should say, you'll never. There are some other cities that kind of are comparable to Cincinnati and what we were doing at that time in history, but there's not many. There's only a couple out there that had the brewing happening that was happening here, and that is a special thing. And to be able to have some of those brands still exist is really, really, really important. Jeff says that Moorline is a tradition and should stay as such. Third Eye should keep pushing the envelope. Lots of tradition and trailblazing going on Cincy and brewing. I agree. Sean says that, like Little Kings versus Wiedemann, you're probably not building an entire taproom brewery for Little Kings, but hey, it might be pretty sweet. Yeah, God, it's so interesting. Like, could you take the Little Kings brand, build a taproom around that idea, and still serve other beer, but it would still be a Little Kings branded taproom? Like, you can go to the Little Kings taproom and you can get Little Kings, and yeah, there's also Hudipole and Christian Moorline and other stuff there, but it's still a Little Kings taproom. Like, could that exist? I don't know. Maybe a Little Kings bar. I think that would be way more of an idea that I think would make sense, where you go in and you have Little Kings and whiskey, and that's the entire theme of the bar, and lots of Little Kings inspired cocktails and things like that. I don't know. I think there's room for something. I just don't know what it is. I don't think anybody knows what it is because it hasn't been done ever. Sean says, feel like they could all fall under Nostalgia Brewing. Maybe someone should reach out to that guy. Yeah, they could definitely fall under Nostalgia Brewing. That would be funny. You go into Nostalgia in 20 years, and there's an entire side of the menu that's just every historical brand. It's all kind of the same beer. It's all these light lagers. You have your Narragansett and your Hootie Delight and your Little Kings and it's just all of these lighter beers. You know, one of Little Kings is a different thing, but that might be a little bit much. But a historical brand may work. I feel like every decent sized brewing city needs to have a brewery that is making a historical brand that is that city's beer. You walk into any dive bar in the city, and those people that used to be getting the the PBR or whatever it is, they're now pouring that city's beer into a mug and sitting at the bar drinking that city's beer, that historical brand. And I know that at some point that has got to happen. It doesn't make sense that it hasn't already. And I just I want that for Cincinnati. I want to be able to walk in and grab something that speaks to the history. It doesn't have to be an actual historical beer. Just something that has some kind of story to it and some kind of personality to it, other than just, like I said, PBR or Natty Light or whatever else is out there. That's the way I feel about it. I want some kind of personality and story behind what I'm drinking. That's what I think about that. But you guys know that I need to get off here and go tend to the family, because my kids are something else. I shouldn't say kids. The older one is fairly easy at night. You just have to give her a snack and a bunch of milk, and she'll sit in bed and go to bed whenever she falls asleep. But the 2-year-old, he will climb on things and leap off of things and break things and yell and scream and dance and destroy until somebody makes him go to sleep. So I'm going to go make him go to sleep. That was a joke. I'm not going to go beat my kid. Although that is a funny joke. Or a funny story, I should say. Me and him got in an argument the other day. I don't remember what he did. He did something, and he got in trouble. I raised my voice, and I told him to, in nicer words, to cut his shit out. And then when my wife came in the room later, he proceeded to tell her that Daddy bopped him. Daddy bopped me in the head, was his exact words, which did not happen. I've never bopped my children in the head, but somehow he decided that was what he was going to tell her that I did. So my children are now going to, or at least him, is at some point going to go to some kind of authority figure and tell them that Daddy bops me when I'm bad, and I'm going to end up in prison. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to get child services called on me because my wonderful 2-year-old is a liar. Thank you, guys. Everybody have a good night. I'm going to go and not bop my kid, but he'll tell you that I did. We'll be back next week. This week on the Brewcast, we have 16 Lots, who we did not even talk about tonight, but they are also expanding. So there is just a ton that is happening in the city right now. It's a good time to be a beer drinker. That's what I seem to always say, right? Cheers, everybody. Do you think I can get away with hiding here in the basement and drinking beer for another 20 minutes or so and pretending the show is still on? Or do you think she would catch on? I don't know. Let's find out.